Welcome. This is the first session of this event. I've got some great guests that are going to join me. I usually do a Poly Weekly News every Monday, a quick plug in for that this time on a Monday, but here on a Tuesday. And again, I've got a great lineup who are going to join me for the next 30 minutes. And we're going to be talking through really what the pandemic has brought, where we are, where we've been, and absolutely where we're going. I want to introduce who I've got here in the show with me this afternoon. From, I don't know, right to left, let's go first with Janelle. Janelle is from Zoom. Zoom probably gone, absolutely gangbusters throughout this. It's every single day I'm doing a Zoom call, whether it's at work, whether it's at play. My son's doing his Cub Scouts on Zoom. My wife does her yoga lessons on Zoom. Our life seems to be Zoom all the time. So Janelle, welcome.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me today. We're very excited to talk about this topic.
Yeah, awesome. So that's Zoom from a platform point of view, but obviously the platform needs some amazing cameras and some amazing audio to make it shine. So the other person joining me is our CMO at Poly, Darius Jones. Darius, you had us a little worried there, but welcome.
Just in the nick of time, for clarity, my kids had their first day of school yesterday, and today was fraught with technical errors from the school district, so I had to go play, AV guy dad for my two children and make it to the call just in time.
Great. Well, hopefully everything is working. And last but by no means least, we've got Noel Kennedy from one of our Poly partners here in the UK, taking these great platforms and these great products and actually delivering them to the customers. Noel's also one of the hosts of the amazing AV Jam Show. If you haven't subscribed and caught up with that channel, then do check that out. Noel, how are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Looking forward to the event today.
Awesome. So I wanted to get started off, I guess, by just doing a kind of a bit of a round robin as to what has happened from you. Obviously, we've all gone from offices and traditional working. The pandemic kind of hit, and we've all had to kind of up sticks and work remotely. I'll start off with Janelle. I think, Janelle, how has things changed from you as a personal point of view, but also from your work at Zoom, since this has sort of happened? What's changed for you, and what have you seen? What are the kind of anecdotes that you can bring forward from this?
Yeah, it's been crazy. That's about all I can say. It's we went from 10 million daily active participants to 300 million at a peak back in April. So just phenomenal change that we had. And you think of us as a company, I think we went through digital transformation that probably would have taken 5 to 10 years in the industry. We went through that in 3 months, right? I think as a whole, as a society, we just completely changed the way that we're working. You asked about myself personally. I actually worked from home for 15 years. I've been in the office for the last 4 or 5. So this is great to be back at home. But the days are long. It's I was reading a Wall Street Journal article the other day. I don't think I'm unique in this, but there's a 52% increase in chats at night between 6 and 9 p.m. I think that's when people are actually catching up because you're in meetings all day long. So it's just personally, I think it's an interesting thing. And then Darius, I know you mentioned children. I have them too. So, we're juggling husbands and kids, and, we had to update our Wi-Fi in our house to make sure everybody could be on the meetings all day long. A nice mesh network. But I'm grateful for the technology that we do have, we've been able to stay connected. Being a part of Zoom, I think I'm pretty humbled to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, so you are one of the huge success stories, definitely, of this pandemic. I think one of the interesting things is, from a platform, the technology works amazingly well, but I think we really need to change the way that we kind of schedule meetings. When we were in the office, you would never do back-to-back meetings. You would always give people like half an hour in between actual physical meetings, but when you're doing virtual meetings, people don't seem to realize that you're literally off one onto the next one. So the technology is such a great enabler, but we as the kind of wetware in the middle need to kind of give people that breathing space in between the Zoom calls and other Zoom calls we're doing. So that's a bit of a change from different way of working. You mentioned Darius there. Darius, we've done a Poly Weekly News already about how things have changed for you. But in your new role here at CMO at Poly, I know we've been doing a lot of stuff around the different pillars of remote working under the pandemic and the different ways and the challenges around workplace and design, as well as the difference around the culture. Can you speak about that at all?
Absolutely. We've talked about hybrid working, and whether it's hybrid working, hybrid learning, the way medicine is delivered, you're seeing this mixture of workplace and workspace. For instance, right, I just talked about my two children. They're used to being in a classroom, and their teacher, God bless her, she said, hey, I'm not a technologist. And so you guys are all going to have to fend for yourselves to kind of help get the classroom where it needs to be. On the other side, there's the enterprise. And we've been doing this to some degree, for decades now. If you think of the early 2000s when I got my start in my career, IP telephony was really about an efficiency play, making things low cost. Fast forward to kind of, the financial crisis, and it was still about that. I think where we're at now with players like Zoom in particular is the consumption model has changed. It's no longer just about the finance, it's about the ease of use. And because that ease of use is where it needs to be, you're seeing people adopt this technology, not just out of necessity right now, but I think you're going to see people use this because it changes the way the workforce works. Whether it's the number of meetings we're having per day, which eventually there's going to be an equilibrium, or it's the meeting style. Who remembers, show of hands, who remembers being that remote worker and like kind of praying that they start the meeting while they're in the boardroom, right? I mean, I've lived remote my entire, career to some degree, and you just see this starting to change as the top, the CEO, is remote. They're demanding kind of a behavioral change, and I think that behavioral change is here to stay.
Nice. Noel, you're obviously from the partner community, the reseller community, actually selling this out to the customer, and Involve have traditionally, from my knowledge, been a kind of traditional boardroom, control systems, very complicated, very technical partner. Done a great deal. Kev's, I know on the chat, he will wax lyrical about setting up complicated control systems. How have things changed in the partner and reseller and the AV community around the customer base changing from the office to remote working, and how have things changed for Involve around this?
Yeah, I think over the last probably 5 years or so, it's drastically changed from what it used to be. It used to be what was everything was a highly level skill set capable person that requires to go into a space, analyze it, press some buttons, work it around. And exactly as Darius has said, the start of that meeting, it needs somebody professional to start that meeting in that space. That's completely changed now, probably driven by Zoom. Mostly in the last 6 months, 12 months. So. Yeah, we'll blame Janelle for this one. But it allows anybody to do it now. And Zoom's working because, and similar to Teams as well, because people can just use it and adopt it really easily. So we're seeing that almost commoditization of this now happening, that people can roll out a meeting space off a shelf in a shop really easily by themselves. It doesn't take out an integration, a system integrator need, right? We still have a place in this business, but there are times where you want something simple for a 1-2 person meeting. There are times where you want something more intelligent for a 25, 50, 100 person space. So yeah, we work and we adapt with the technologies, just as the technology does for people.
Have you seen an increase in things like moving towards sort of headsets and personal cameras from sort of real systems?
And that's the problem, right? So headsets, particularly when the pandemic hit, and as much as integrators will have been talking to their client bases day in, day out about, headsets, you should be using headsets to create audio quality in your calls. And people are going, yeah, I'm not too worried about it right now. All of a sudden, everybody wants a headset. And guess what? Yeah. Nobody can get them because the channel can't provide them because everything's going wrong. So yeah, we've dealt with that, and everybody's picking up as they go along. But headsets, webcams, and personal devices really are high sell at the moment.
Nice. And you know, what do you think, you know, as we've kind of gone through, there's a great, we use at Polygon, it's the survive, stay alive and thrive. The sort of like, you know, everyone was in that panic stage. Now we're kind of the normal. And then what's the next stage going to be, do you think? I mean, do you think we're all going to go back to how it used to be? Or does Zoom kind of think that there is going to be this hybrid, you know, new way of working with a mixed community of people at home and in the office and using technology to be able to interact between them?
You've got to have that, right? I can't see any company who, unless there's a necessity for somebody to be actually physically in that space, that doesn't take that hybrid approach. It makes perfect sense. The capability, the technology, the connectivity is there and available now at a good price.
Here's an interesting thought. Sorry.
Go on, Janelle. I asked Janelle the question. Go on. I've got to keep order here.
we all want to chime in on this one.
Yeah, keep going.
Well, you know, the Wall Street Journal there was an article I think 2 weeks ago on this, and they had done a lot of research, and 82% said that they'd go back to after we reopen that they'll allow remote working. So 82% are still going to have some remote working. 47% said they'll stay all remote. And 43% said they're going to have some flexibility. So, you know, this is going to take a while, whether we get the vaccine or not, and when. Like, it's all going to take a while. I mean, I hope we can all go back, but it's going to take a bit. So, you know, I think you're seeing some really cool innovations on, like you said, you're surviving now, but how do we thrive? And I think there's a lot going on with, if you think about how do I whiteboard, right? How do I do that collaboration together? I think these at-home devices, we're working with Poly with X30, that you can just set up with, you can either set that up in a room and have it be a shared device, or you could set it up at home or your personal office and have that be dedicated just to you.
There's a great demo of that on my YouTube channel, demoing the X30 with Zoom on your own video. Check that out.
It's very cool, very cool. I think you're going to start to see that, right? People want to look really professional at home, and whether that's your lighting, your cameras, your headsets, I think that's where people are going right now and thriving.
Yeah, Darius, you wanted to chime in on that?
One of the pieces of food for thought that I wanted to add to the conversation was, look at the government. Our governments are working virtually from home. Like, that's the last thing that I would think of. And so when I think of the continuum of 100% return to work and 100% work from home, you know, I think there's going to be this kind of, you know, chewy middle of 60 to 70% that are at home for some duration. Like, I couldn't imagine going into a 1,500 person office or a 300 person office and hearing someone sneeze incessantly, all right? You know, those days of going back to work sick are over, right? You know, the first time someone sneezes, they're gonna like go home, right? And so I think, you know, Janelle, I think you hit it on the head with the Wall Street Journal kind of numbers to support it. There's gonna be this range, but it's when and how, right? People are gonna, even if you're 100% in the office, they're going to have workplace flexibility so that people don't get other people sick, because we don't know how this is going to go.
Right. Yeah, and you think about education right now. So my sister's a pediatrician. So in New Jersey, if you're sick, you have to go home, and you have to be home for at least 10 days, unless your doctor can diagnose you with something else. Your sibling also has to go home. And because you could be shedding this virus for up to 10 days, your sibling actually has to stay home for 24 days. Because they have to say you're 10 days and then the other 14 days. So how do you do this? We're going to be hybrid for a while.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely true. I was going to say, Noel, how are you involved, you know, with your staff? How are you kind of, are you guys back to the office? I mean, you do a lot of kind of government deployments in some large spaces.
And because of that, we are a remote workforce involved, except for our NOC team, who clearly we went to protect straight away. So our office shut down.
I remember I was supposed to be coming for a meeting at your office, and I had to sign a letter, so we didn't do it in the end. Yeah.
No, exactly. So we've done that. The office now is open if you need to go, but it's on a need to go basis, right? So most of my team, the sales guys, don't need to go to the office unless we want to demo specific technology. But again, we can work with the vendors that we work with, and we can use their facilities, and we can make it work that way. So we've promoted that working anywhere method for many years now. It's just kind of unfortunate that it's a virus that's now started to drive that message. So the big businesses that are like the tankers that take that time to turn normally, They flipped on the dime. So the NHS has suddenly said, okay, well, let's open it up and we can do Zoom calls to the NHS now, where a year ago you couldn't at all.
They would never think about that. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's opened quite a few more doors for integrators across the board, really.
Nice, nice. I was going to ask, and you picked up on this point about you've had to upgrade your Wi-Fi at home, and I think this is a huge point, is the kind of at-home IT and IT. Traditionally you go into an office, and if it didn't work, you had someone to shout at. Now that's your kind of your husband or your wife, or whoever looks after your home network. My internet doesn't work. What do I do? I mean, what are we seeing with regards to kind of the challenges around technology at home? We talked about setting up dedicated Zoom systems at home. How is the enterprise IT dealing with people's setups and enabling employees to work from home? I don't know who wants to take that one as a question.
I'm happy to say that one. purely because we've been talking about this ourselves. We are seeing that requirement for supporting home users. So we can support technology, whether that's a corporate entity or whether that's somebody from a corporate business working from home, because the capability to connect the technology to our service is there and available. So we can tell if that expertise is gone offline. What we can't necessarily do, and what we have to be sure to make the people understand, is that we can't manage the Virgin internet connection or the broadband connection to the premise. So there's a little bit of give and take. Yeah, exactly. There's the last mile stop that we can't handle. However, the capability is there for everybody now to manage that technology.
Yeah. So it's interesting you said management, and we actually, my wife's another executive who works for a financial services organization, and so we actually have 2 internet connections. We have one for her, very secure VPN appliance, and then we have everyone else, including my connections, and they're both gig fiber. But what was interesting, and I'll even share my personal experience today. My kids have the best of what Poly offers on their head. They have a great camera experience, and they have a great, laptop experience. And so I was trying to let them know the reason why they couldn't be heard was not because their device wasn't configured properly. It was because the service was non-responsive. And so I think there's a combination of giving people the confidence, whether it's remote monitoring for the endpoint, remote monitoring for the Wi-Fi, and I use one of those mesh networks. I love the way they do tests every hour on the hour and then send an alert to say there's a problem with the gateway. That was a recent addition in the last couple of days based on a firmware upgrade. But there's still that last mile of the headset, the camera, the dedicated endpoint device, which can also give some indications as to whether or not there's an issue with the service, or there's an issue with the laptop, or there's an issue with the device itself. So I think we have a little bit of a ways to go as an industry in coordinating those different vectors and saying, here's the logical place to start troubleshooting. And I think we have to come together as an industry to solve that. I don't think that's going to be just the router companies, just the broadband providers, just the Zooms of the world, or just the Polys of the world. I think we're going to have to do it together.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Again, we had that kind of mad panic rush out of the office. Everyone grabbed the nearest headset, as Noel was kind of saying, or couldn't get one. And I think now there's that kind of level set, to kind of, okay, we've got out, we're okay. And so we said sort of surviving. How do we then level up and again try and get more professional technology and make ourselves look better, make ourselves sound better, so that we can continue on like this. And again, I was going to probe you, Darius, with regards to kind of what Poly might be doing around sort of device management, around headsets and stuff, with some of our management tools that then go on top of what the platforms can provide, like Zoom.
Absolutely. One of I think I'm gonna have to pay my kids a royalty. I've used them as a reference point so many times. There's this photo in my circle of friends where my 2 kids are sitting on laptops last, the end of the school year, and they have the Voyager UCs on their head, and they're sitting pretty much 3 feet apart. And my friends are like, "How the hell did you do that?" And I said, well, they have headsets on with noise canceling, and the mics are also noise canceling. And people forget that noise canceling has 2 components. Noise canceling for you as the listener, and noise canceling for the person on the other end from your microphone. Here they are 3 feet apart having two different conversations in two different, Zoom sessions, yet they're not interrupting each other and the other people aren't hearing their conversation. So when you think of where headsets need to go, they need to have that bidirectional sophistication. And on top of that, there's firmware, there's other things that need to be managed. And so we believe at Poly that you're going to have an actively managed headset. And so we have a series of tools, in particular, our Poly Manager, our Headset Manager Pro, plus Lens, which is a new capability that we've launched that allows an administrator to know the firmware level and even adjust some of the settings along the way. And that's our kind of first step in the journey of end-to-end management of these experiences.
Nice. And I guess, Noel, are you guys wrapping that into kind of managed service that you can then, provide that to the customers as that kind of end-to-end service rather than them?
Exactly. We use a couple of different platforms to manage technology because there's so much technology around. There are very few that manage absolutely everything. So we have to kind of pick and choose, and that's where the speciality comes from the guys that are supporting it. They have to be almost the knowledge of everything that we sell to the nth degree. So, the more they can get from the system, the more information they can get that they can help the end users and make things work.
Nice. I wanted to, a couple of you brought up, I think we've all kind of got kids at school or going back to school or not going back to school. Let's hope that they are going back to school. But I was going to, Zoom in education, education is a huge thing, and we are, K through 12 and, everyone's going to be going back hopefully in September, October. What is Zoom doing around, the different kind of applications and workspaces? Because again, Zoom is such a multi-platform. Again, like yoga lessons, Cub Scout lessons, business meetings. Are there any, I know you've already got to share a roadmap, but what are you guys doing with regards to all these different applications now for the platform rather than just meetings and webinars? So things like education and things like, healthcare. Is Zoom doing anything around that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We gave Zoom away for free to over 100,000 schools in 25 countries.
Wow.
And Darius, as you mentioned, a lot of these teachers are not technical and don't have IT, right? So, and we had primarily been selling it to enterprise, which have great IT departments or teams like Noel and your team to help manage this, right? So we became their IT. So you think about our 90-day security freeze that we had. We went through and did just a huge amount of work of making sure that people could easily secure the meetings. We did things like changing the security icon in the meeting, making it at your fingertips that you can expel somebody from a meeting. You can turn on or off their video. You can decide who can annotate, who cannot. We upgraded our encryption level to GCM, 256 AES GCM. So we did a lot around security. We also did a lot around education.
You guys flipped so quickly around that. You really took that bull by the horns and really flipped that security thing and went to town and really doubled down on that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it was really impressive how, obviously, there were some challenges, but Zoom really did come, back and fixed all those issues and made it 10 times better as well. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think hopefully leading the industry now, right? We made a key acquisition, Keybase, to work on our end-to-end encryption. Just the hiring that we've done in this area, and it's a real focal point for us going forward. It's changed our culture forever, that's for sure. But also for education, we became their IT department, but we also did a lot of educating. This summer, we ran a summer academy, which is 2 days where they could come in and get all their training, get badging that show that they attended for the teachers, and it was so well attended. And just, we have all this content now as well that teachers can come and learn about how, not only how to securely run your meeting, but how do you engage these kids for 4 or 5 hours a day, right? That's a challenge for sure.
I don't know, give my son a screen and he's hooked. He can quite easily sit on a tablet or a screen for hours. But yeah, you're absolutely.
The biggest challenge is keeping the phone away. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to ask Darius. I know we've been doing a lot of stuff, and we've had I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it actually, but we've had a very successful win in the education space. If we are, then I'll let you talk about it. If not, then I'll shut up. But we've got some presenter tracking and some machine learning we've got on the cameras, which has been amazing for the classroom. Do you want to talk around that and how that's really going to revolutionize things as we go back to school?
Absolutely. Once again, I won't use the kids, but I'll use education as the reference point. Last year, I did a machine learning kind of discovery day for STEM at my local educational group, in particular the Board of Ed. And little did I know, months later, they'd be interested in it. They were quite interested in the fact that we use, computer vision to track, the presenter, and we do all the processing in camera. And so what you see on the other end is a very well orchestrated kind of, panning and zooming, what Tom Puro calls easing. But it's the concept of being able to follow a speaker and not doing jump cuts to where they move, where it's kind of rigid and it looks like a machine is doing it. Instead, it's very theatrical, comes in and out of, of not focus, but depth, and, follows the user in a very natural way. One of the things, and we haven't released this yet, but I'll give you a preview.
Giving away secrets.
Yeah, one of the things that makes this a very compelling feature is not just the experience for the end user on the other side, which is a very nice kind of cinematography effect. What it really does is it gives the teacher confidence to be able to walk around their workspace in a very natural way. If you're used to moving over to the whiteboard and gesturing at it, then you should continue to do that if you have the ability to. So we're really trying to make this as seamless and as natural as possible in as many kind of environments as possible. And the one thing that I thought was really interesting, and people started to notice it as we started to demo, it works with or without a mask on.
Yeah, that's been great. The fact that it works with a mask. I mean, that was a real surprise when someone actually picked it up and tried it and it actually worked. It's pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
I was going to sort of switch gears. So, I mean, I think we've got education covered. The interesting part is around kind of hiring and staff coming into to companies, and how we do that. I mean, the traditional interview process now is kind of, is completely all about, remote. But do you think from an employee's point of view, they're going to be more looking at regards to the ability to work remotely, the tools and technology that they'll be given, and the culture, the new culture? And again, that will be rather than who's got the best bonus package and who's got the highest salary, it will be more around things like the culture and the technology. I was going to ask Noel around that one again, whether you're seeing anything around that either at Involve or the customers that you talk to.
Yeah, we've taken on one or two people, I think, over this time at Involve. They were interviewed via video, but we would have done that by default anyway, right. Regardless of what's going on. And I think those interviews probably started when Skype was around, right? People started using Skype as that first point of contact for the interviews. It's just the way it is. In terms of going forwards, if people are looking at positions at companies, undoubtedly they're going to want to have that technical capability, that technology available to them to do the job from anywhere. Why wouldn't you? Why would you want to be stuck in an office to do the same job that you could do working from home, and probably more effective doing it? It allows the business to be more flexible, offer a better working environment, I would suggest, in many respects, and have some capability. So yeah, I think you'll see that perhaps that swing from, hey, my car allowance is £1,000. Can I swap that instead to a working from home allowance? And do that, because I don't really
Jason wouldn't do that on his Tesla. Jason wouldn't give up his Tesla to work from home. I know he's in the chat, so we'll see what that stirs up. But I think you're absolutely right.
I get a little provocative. I think people will judge, all things being equal. I think, the incoming new college hire will likely say, I'm going to only work at companies who support this. I've already talked to a couple of new college hires. They've said no to organizations who insisted that they move at the end of the pandemic. And I think, as long as it's still a buyer's market for jobs, which, despite the economies having challenges, it's still a buyer's market. I think you're going to see companies use this as a recruiting tactic, hardcore. And it will be the difference between the winners and losers. Do you have a great work at home package? Are you effective in leading and nurturing employees at distance? I think that'll be one of the questions.
And Janelle, Zoom. What are you seeing at Zoom? I mean, you have a pretty. I mean, you've won numerous awards about being, Employer of the Year and around the world. You have some great employee, perks and opportunities. But I mean, again, has anything changed at Zoom? As an employee of Zoom, how do you find it?
I would say it's changed. Just the massive amount of hiring that we're doing, right? And how do you do that and still keep people connected to the culture, right? And get them engaged with that. So, there are things like we have the all hands meetings, and we're a very transparent company. We do this every week or 2 weeks, depending on what the topics may be. Anybody can, anonymously submit questions, and Eric and the executive team will, answer those. Training, right? How do you get your salespeople up and ramped and knowing these products when they're all remote? So, figuring out how to do that and do that all over Zoom. I think that's, we're leading the way with that. And I think, really making sure people stay connected, and whether that's through, chat, your team meetings, my team, we have not only our formal team meetings, but we have just a half-hour check-in every single day. Half my team is new since March, right? And they've all joined remotely. So how do they stay connected and do that? And sometimes we have, guest speakers come in or certain topics, but sometimes it's just, how was your weekend? And we play some fun games. Really just try to connect and build that teamwork on a personal level with that. But Darius, I think you brought up an interesting point of, these younger employees saying, hey, I want to work from anywhere. And I think certainly there's cost of living, there's tax implications that people are looking at, what can I do there? But it's going to be interesting when we go back, because I do believe that if you're wanting to move up that ladder in corporate, it's not as easy to do when you're remote. If you're in headquarters and you're there, you're getting the mentorship, you're learning from these higher executives every day. So I think it's going to be interesting when we all go back, right? To some extent, I think there'll still be some flexibility with that. But who will stay remote and who will say, no, I'm young in my career and I want to be moving up, and I want to come back into headquarters. It'll be interesting to see.
That's clearly where I've gone wrong, being a sole remote worker. That's obviously why I'm not the new CEO of Poly, clearly. We talked about employees. From an employer point of view, real estate. I mean, do we see that this is going to be an opportunity that companies are going to reevaluate their real estate and say, actually, we had multiple locations in a country or in a geography. Can we consolidate that? Do we need this much real estate? Can we consolidate that down and look to reduce that and have that cost saving? I don't know who wants to pick that one up.
We've seen that with Barclays, right, in London recently. So yeah, that's going to happen from all the big businesses. A few years back, for my sins, I worked at Ricoh, and they went back into workplace services. They were cutting building space down in a sensible way because they were managing that. A load of employees all over the country, all over the world, and trying to pocket that into a more sensible building environment, which is exactly what people are now doing today. So yeah, it's there already.
Again, Zoom, Poly, what are you guys doing with regards to real estate? Is there any, I don't know, again, without giving away any secrets or telling anything we shouldn't do, but is there any discussions going on? Are people seeing that and having those discussions of, should we now reduce the footprint? We don't need this much, concrete with our logo on it, when actually people are going to be working remotely.
I think whether it's us or some of the partners and customers we have, everyone is looking at it. We ourselves have gone through kind of a multi-tiered approach to determining a worker's requirement to be in the office. So we have people who, absolutely need to be in the office. You have your lab people. You have
I was saying about the NOC, the NOC, secure VNOC can't be at home because it can't be secure in the levels that they need it. But yeah, you're right.
Absolutely. You have the non-essential teams who can come and go as they please. And then you have people who never need to come into the office. And so we've gone through that rationalization. A lot of our customers have gone through it. And I think the next step then becomes, what do we do with the workplace, all right? Does it become, as Noel said, the thing that you come to for a purpose? And I think you're starting to see a lot of people gravitate to this concept of you go into the office for a reason, you stay home to meet. And I think it's going to put a little bit of a strain on corporate culture, as Janelle mentioned. We're used to rubbing elbows. We're used to, kind of talking and taking people out to lunch. But I still think that, at least for the next, I'd say 24 months at least, that's going to be a very difficult proposition. And so it's going to put a strain on kind of where people place their bets. Ultimately, I think there's going to be less square footage. How much, only time will tell. I think it'll vary on industry. I think in high tech, it'll probably be a little bit more extreme. I think in financial services, probably a little more extreme. Retail, it's really tough, right? You need the
retail.
person
I
to
mean,
know it.
I had discussions several years ago of a friend, and we were saying, the Best Buys and the WalMarts become just like showrooms where you'll go in and touch it and feel it, and then you just buy it online. That would be, from electronics retail, everyone would just buy off Amazon. But you'd want to go and, okay, it looks like this, it feels like that's how it looks, and then you just go and so they just become showrooms that you would go to rather than actually buying it from there. It's just a place where you go and look and feel. Any more points on that? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut that one short.
There's a whole thread on the retail piece. I think
Retail is interesting.
the guys are all swapping, right? You have Amazon looking at mall space for mini distribution centers, and you have Best Buy rethinking their whole strategy and making their points of presence more, mini distribution centers. So I think that's a wait and see. Retail will get interesting over the next year.
One of the things, and David's kind of been prepping me on, he's pinging me again, ask this, ask that. So shout out to Mr. Dante because he's keeping me on track here. But he was saying, and asking, how are we, the collective we, as in Zoom, Poly, and Involve, going to level up? And I kind of asked this to Janelle earlier about, are you doing stuff around education? Are you doing it around these specific applications? I guess I'll ask Darius first, what are Poly doing to take it one level up, to really give people that great experience? So it's not just good enough, that we can get that great experience at home and be heard and be seen. What are Poly doing, and then what are Zoom doing? And then again, how can Involve then take that out to the customers and provide that to the customers as a service? So Darius, do you want to take that one first?
Absolutely. We had the category defining, product, the X30 and X50. All right. Two products that shipped well before the pandemic, but are very versatile. And that was really kind of, the first. I'd actually go back. The Studio, the original Studio USB was kind of the first volley. It's a equally versatile tool, lots of the features in it. Kind of were the predecessor for the X30 and X50 with their embedded systems. But that really is kind of the first move in making this technology much more easy to use and much more readily accessible. You can still use your PC and your Mac experiences, but we think that this is kind of the top-notch experience. From there, you have, the Eagle Eye Cube with all of its intelligence, which is similar to the Studio and the X30s. And then you have this immense portfolio. And I mean, I sometimes look at it and I'm like, we have a lot of headsets. We have a headset pretty much for every use case, including helping. You ever watch Top Gun? There's the guys with the big headphones on and they go like this. I mean, that's one of our headsets, right? So yeah, I have my wall of headsets over here.
Mr. Dunn, you missed it earlier because you joined late. I mean, on time. But David was actually before you joined. We were talking about the fact that everyone is different. Some people like in ear, some people like over the ear, some people like stereo, some people like mono. I've got a stereo, but I always keep one ear off, because then I've got the sort of better space surrounding. I've got decks because I'm on the third floor of our house and I can go down and make a coffee. But some people, and again, you've got the small over the ear. So we do have a lot of headsets, but that's because everyone is different and no one is the same. And if we just made a single headset, then we probably wouldn't sell that. We've got a trucker's headset. We were joking about that, the 10-4, this special thing for truckers, So everyone is different and everyone needs a different headset. Sorry to interrupt you there, Derek.
Absolutely. So you hit the punchline, right? You can make 3 really great headsets, but they're not going to appeal to everyone, and there's always going to be a deficiency. And I think our approach of making a headset essentially for every use case is just unique in the industry. And I think it really is how we've leveled up as a company and will continue to level up between the variety of video experiences and the variety of audio experiences from room to personal. I think we're going to cover the market opportunity and provide the best experience for the use case. So
I'm smiling because I know what's coming, so but I won't say anything about that. Janelle, you've already done the kind of virtual backgrounds and kind of started that whole craze off, and I saw it. And you were, I don't know again whether I'm going to throw you under the bus here, but you were showing off some new funky stuff the other day. I don't know, can you show us? Was that a secret or was that? I probably should have checked all this before we went on, but you had some.
No, that's not a secret at all. We can
Okay,
still
look at this. We can have
do,
some.
do some funky stuff here. Yeah, so these are new video filters that just came out, and you can play with these. You know, and they're fun, right? They're just a great way to interact. In their meetings, we also have more reactions, which is amazing to watch how people have been using that. You know, we've had claps and thumbs up. Now you got smiley faces, party hats. You know, it's just a fun way to be interactive in those meetings. So, you know, certainly we're focused on, you know, that human element of it, but certainly the quality and ease of use. And then of course, I think just working with our partners, and whether that's software partners on our platform who are using Zoom to integrate, you know, video into their own products. You know, you're kind of seeing this video first economy that's really starting to emerge from our platform play, to working with our hardware partners like you guys, coming up with really great solutions for when we do go back to the office and for work for home. So we have the Zoom for Home initiative, which is new. And then I would also say, I'm going to plug here on my Zoom phone, you know, just absolutely phenomenal. And if you think about people needing to work from anywhere, right? I can't just have my desk phone at my desk. I need to be able to take this wherever I go. I need to have my business identity, my business phone number. And you talk about education or doctors, right? You certainly don't want to be giving out your personal cell phone. It's illegal in a lot of places. You can't do that. So, right. So you need to be able to have that cloud phone capability wherever you are. And this week we just announced that we are now in over 40 countries available for this. So just phenomenal growth in the Zoom Phone product as well.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to, we had Jeff Smith of Zoom Rooms on my weekly show. If you haven't seen that one, check it out. It's on the back catalogue. But he was talking again around the innovations you guys are doing around kind of touchless as well in the meeting room. So the ability to start the meeting on your phone and then transfer it to the kind of proximity joining with the Zoom app on the phone to the Zoom Room as well, which is hugely...
Being able to have everything on your phone as the controller, absolutely. I think more voice commands you're going to be seeing, digital signage and wayfinding with scheduling displays. You know, you can't have too many people in one room at a time. So there are teams working on all of this. For sure.
And I'm sure there'll be some great hardware to run it on from Poly, but we won't talk about that. No, sure what's going on? You know, how is Involve going to again change the game and, you know, make sure that the customers are enabled? What are you guys doing with regards to services and products that you are taking to market to the customers and moving it forward?
Yeah, so for us, as it's pretty much always been, everything starts with the lab testing. So our engineers take things apart, make sure it works, and there's confidence to actually take those products out to sale. The vendors traditionally can market whatever they want. We make sure that what they're saying is true. And then once we can do that, you've got a section of technology here that we take for granted in most respects because we all kind of understand how technology works. But we've got an educational piece around things as well now. So if we've got a company who's deploying Zoom Rooms, Zoom whatever across the board, it's deploying Teams across the board. Not every single user is the same. The capability that they have, the knowledge that they have, and everything that sits in place, we can now step in there and help everybody rather than just give them something and expect them to know how to use it. So there's no one size fits all for technology. There's no one size fits all for learning. We hope to bring all of that together so we can make sure that everybody works as an equal participant really in the calls.
And I think, again, you talk about Zoom around that. One of the other interesting points recently was, I think I was on holiday, so I'm hoping this is all public, but there's now the hardware as a service from Zoom that is available that you can pick up. And again, another new and innovative purchasing model. So it's not the old day of, you know, CapEx and, you know, we buy the hardware, sweat the asset, the hardware and all the rest of it, but being able to buy that as a service, as an OpEx model and consume that, you know, the best platform with the best hardware through the best integrator through Involve.
And we're seeing a lot of that recently. That kind of different model for purchasing. It's a little bit more familiar to people nowadays. That's how they get their Netflix. That's how their Amazon Prime subscription runs. That's how everything runs. So yeah, that's definitely a more accessible route for people.
Cool. Well, before I hand this back over to Mr. Maldo to throw the levers, Darius, where can people find out more around the amazing Poly hardware, software, and solutions?
Poly.com, and if you're interested in work at home, it's the first topic on the website.
Very cool. Janelle, I probably don't even need to ask, because it's at every billboard in every train station. I say every airport, but no one's at the airports anymore. Terminal 5 in London was like Zoom all over it. I hope you got a reduction on those adverts. But where can people find out more around Zoom and connect with you guys?
Yeah, just visit us at zoom.com.
Simple and easy. Noel, where can we hear more about you and Involve?
So, yeah, me on Twitter, I'm Noel on Tech on Twitter, www.involve.vc, and my AB Jam friends are obviously on Twitter as well at AB Jam UK.
And doing an amazing job in the chat. So shout out to Mr. Jason Ward and to Mr. Kevin Talbot as well on the chat, doing a great job. And if you want to get more of me, I do a weekly news show every Monday on YouTube. Check me out. The easiest way to find me is just to Google Neil Poly. You might get some interesting things when you search for things called Poly on Google, but hopefully you'll find the right Neil doing Poly stuff. You can find me on YouTube, Neil Poly. I've got a great channel where I go through all the technology. Hook me up on LinkedIn, Twitter, and all that good social stuff.